recently picked up the refined cycle Jerry Can mount for the Toyota FJ Cruiser, designed specifically for the FJ Cruiser. Very well made, comes with about 3 parts, very well machined, very heavy bodied. Came wrapped up nice and tight, so no damage for delivery. Comes with various bolts and washers. I do warn you that it comes with just about exactly what you need, so if you happen to lose a washer or a bolt or something, you have to go pick one up. I think I had one extra washer, I think is all I had, extra at least. Of course you get a sticker, and you also get a thank you, as well as an advisement to count before you start. The instructions are printed online. I printed mine. It does not come with them in the box, so you do have to go online and get them printed or just look on a tablet or phone. I opted for the antenna mount, which is optional. It's just like an extra like $8 or something, I forget. I do suggest it because you will be removing your antenna mount and replacing it with this. Here's the Jerry Can I bought on Amazon, as well as the holder. Refined Cycle does not sell you one with this set, so you have to buy it separately. This is the one I got off of Amazon. I'll leave a link below. It's not exactly what I wanted, but it'll work for now until I can get a better Jerry Can. As you can see, it doesn't quite line up like I was hoping it would, but... Alright, well, step number 1, remove your spare tire and your antenna to get started. You will be removing bolts that hold the door up, so it is suggested to put the spare underneath the door. That might help with stabilizing it while you're changing bolts out. Not required, but suggested, and I did it this time and it worked pretty well. Many of us have the bandy mount for our antenna. As you can see, mine's been through the ringer, so about time to replace it anyways. So you pull it off and then it'll be replaced with the refined cycle version. Then you'll want to remove the spare tire mount, and there's just 4 bolts that are holding that on. Now it does warn you in the instructions that these studs may remain at the top, and if they do, you'll have to remove them separately, which is a bit of a pain in the butt. That definitely stalled me and took more time than I was hoping. But I ended up just removing the back door and sprayed some penetrant on the front and back side of the bolts and kind of left it a bit, and also banged it with a hammer a bit, and then took some clamps and started going to town on it. I did kind of destroy them getting them out, but they do eventually wiggle free. It just takes a bit of effort. Alright, so we'll install the first piece by removing the hinge bolts and replacing it with these. Now the bolts that you're using actually have a washer as well as a spacer. That spacer goes between the refined cycle piece and the door hinge. And I do warn you, it's not easy to get these in. You would think it would be, but they're not. For some reason, the spacers are just under a millimeter off, just enough that it's pretty difficult. I don't think they're necessarily off, but they're machined. It's machined perfectly, and that's makes it difficult. So the spacers don't want to go in. So you really have to wiggle it and wiggle it and wiggle it and move it and move it and wiggle it and wiggle it until it works. And I had to put them in kind of tight, and then eventually it just came together. All the dots eventually connected after I put them in nice and tight. They do fit well though. I did utilize the vice grips. They work really well in a situation like this. I babied them into position and just worked one at a time until they were just tight enough for me to pull out a different tool to finish the job. Then this is when I installed the other bolt. I figured at this point it would help me line everything up. And I kind of want you to see the spacers, what I meant by that. You have the washer on the outside of the bolt, and on the inside the spacer wiggles in between the machined piece and the hinge. And that's all needs to be flush. And then once everything was in alignment, I pulled out the Allen wrench and tightened everything up. So the next step was to get the larger main piece connected and kind of organized with the bolts, because it all goes on at once. So you have 4 bolts on either side, and they all have to kind of go in at once and align at once against the door. So you'll see kind of what I did here was I put it on loosely with all 4. I will warn you, this is a 2-person job. This was a huge pain in the butt with just me. So what I did, which was not ideal, I admit, again, was putting everything on loosely, and then what I was doing was I was backing off each bolt one at a time to put in the washers on the inside. So you have one washer on the outside, right there, on the top and bottom of the left side. So one washer on the top and bottom of the left side against the door, and then one on the outside against the bolt head. And as you can see, it's not the easiest thing to do. If you had 2 people, you could put the bolts on before and then one person on either side, slowly guide each one in because it's obviously not the lightest thing in the world either. It's a pretty heavy piece of metal, so it's hard to do. I do get better footage of the washers on the inside. One thing I should mention is in the instructions it says that there are 4 rubber washers against the door that are pre-existing. I did not have them on mine, so I don't know if they fell off a long time ago or what, but I did not have any rubber washers. So I did end up putting some fiber washers on the inside. I don't know how long they'll stay. I might have to pull the thing off and put some new rubber washers on in the future, but it worked fine and it was nice and tight, so I'm not too worried. But you should have some rubber washers on the inside that should be pulled off and reused. So don't throw those out. Make sure you hold on to those rubber washers and reuse them. Otherwise you'll be snooping around like I did for some kind of rubber washer. So because you have a difference on the right side, you need to put 3 washers on. So the left side only has 1 washer, the right side has 3. And that also includes the rubber washer, if you have that, a rubber gasket. So again, I was backing off 1 at a time, and then I would wiggle in the 3 washers on the inside and then tighten it best I could. And this was a little bit easier because now that I had that far left side done, the right side was a little easier. So here's a better shot of the washers. The far right side has the 3 washers, and the rubber washer, mine was replaced with a fiber washer. So you should have a rubber washer in theory. And then on the left side just have the 1 washer on the top and bottom. The next step is to put on the other arm, I guess we'll call it. So this other arm is going to be on that farther side. I already have the bolts kind of in place, and you can kind of see where they'll line up. The instructions do say or suggest that you put the bolts on loosely, so obviously it can move around, and to put on Loctite after everything's installed. So once everything is installed, you take off 1 bolt at a time, put the Loctite on, and then tighten the bolts, which is what I did at the end. So you put your jerry can holder on there, which is held on by 4 bolts, and that farther side will be held on with 2 bolts, and you'll see that in a second where the antenna mount goes. So what I'm doing here is I'm quite literally just putting them in very loosely, 1 at a time, so that they can kind of work into place. And it makes perfect sense why they suggest putting everything on real loose, because things do shift as you're putting all this stuff on. So here's the antenna mount, and you can see there's 2 holes. Each one takes the same bolt and nut. One of the bolts and nuts are a little bit more difficult to get in because it kind of goes in between the mount, the arm, and the actual jerry can holder itself. So it takes a little bit of finesse, but you can get them in there, and you just got to get them tight and make them work. But it fits really nice and snug once you get it all put together. And you can see what I meant by saying one of them is a bit hidden behind the holder and the mount. So again, a little bit of finesse, but they're both tight and it works really well. Everything is sturdy and tight.
I got the cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gonna live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad, I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad, doing no cap. Only God wants, so you better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad, yeah. Baby, I'm bad.
I just wanna stay bad, stay mad. Chip on my shoulder cause they treat me like an outcast. I ain't gonna take that, stay back. I'll be swinging hard till the hits come in all caps. I ain't gonna lay back, pray that someone's gonna help me. Ain't nobody like that. I ain't gonna wait, that's all fact. Give me one shot and I'll never get the throne back. I'm sick of being cautious, I'ma go cause something, can't stop this. I'ma steal everybody's lane, call it shoplift. Sick of hearing everyone complain when they thoughtless. Taste the pain, it's like candy canes. It makes me go change into a better frame, into a better name. Society's insane, we all live for fame, yeah. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gonna live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad, I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad, do it no cap. Only God wants, so you better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad.